Good day, fellow scapers. My name's Deck, but please call me Hobo, and welcome back to my channel. So something tells me you're looking to get into ranged. So why ranged? Ranged for many years has been dipping in and out of being the meta within Runescape. Ranged has also benefited from some new weapons, some new abilities, and some tender loving care in the last few years that has seen its damage skyrocket back to the front of the pack. Easy examples of this include the Bow of the Last Guardian, Greater Ricochet, Elite Dracolich, additional passives on Serenic, and of course the Combat Beta, which has come to its conclusion. So I thought it's about time that I released a video how in 2024 I would begin to invest in a range setup to take me from this guy to this guy. Now, ranged is generally a more expensive setup than some of the other styles, but the same as in my previous melee video, I'll be sticking to a budget of 10 million to begin this setup. Now, before we go and start spending any of our money whatsoever, let's talk about some of the freebies you should absolutely have to help with our setup. Firstly, let's talk about rings. Now, a Ring of Vigor is a lovely little item which saves you 10% adrenaline after using an ultimate. However, after getting this ring, I would highly advise finishing the Extinction quest, which makes this ring a passive ability, and go and get yourself an Asylum Surgeon's ring, which will stack with similar benefits to that of the Vigor. Next is a huge ability, which will be something that you use even in the end game. So go and complete the World Wakes quest, which will give you access to the ability Death Swiftness, and this will pair very nicely with the previously mentioned rings. Next up is the ability Blood Tendrils, which you can get for free from Terry Belando at the exam centre after completing the Dig Site quest, allowing you to read the Codex Ultimatus for this unlock. Now let's talk about capes. If you have any skill whatsoever, at level 99, you can spend 100k and net yourself a ranged bonus of nearly 22. Of course, I would preference the range cape over any other, purely and simply because it also gives you a passive ranged buff. Now, if you don't have this, then another option would be the Cape of Legends, which is a reward from the Legends quest, and again, it's a free unlock. For a pocket slot item, you could take the easy route and do the easy tasks for the City of and get yourself a Tome of but I would also advise completing the One Piercing Note quest for some DPS books, which are also free. Now let's talk about how you're going to be spending that money. A nice cheap weapon to purchase and to start out with is the upgraded Bone Blowpipe. This will cost you about 2 million, and I will perk this weapon out with Precise 6 and Eruptive 4, which will set you back around 1 million. I will include a link in the description for the optimal PVM perks. I would then advise purchasing the Serenic Head, Body, and Legs for a cumulative 5.5 million GP. After this, we don't really have too much money left, so I would advise instead purchasing some Royal Spiky Vambraces for around 5k. I would then spend 300k on Saradomin's Murmur, and if you have 200,000 Dungeoneering tokens, use a Chaotic Remnant on it and convert it into a Farsight Sniper's Necklace. Next up, I would then buy yourself some Demon Slayer boots for a mere 250,000. Now, if you total all of this up, this will bring you in just shy of 10 million GP. With this, you should be capable of doing some basic bossing, and I would save up 5,000 marks of war to get yourself the Vampirism Aura, and then a further 25,000 for the Reckless Aura. I would spend some time in Shattered Worlds. It's a mini game in RuneScape, and you can net yourself 63 million Shattered Anima, which sounds way more than it actually is, and then invest to get yourself the ability Greater Dazing Shot. This is a fantastic two-handed ability, and predominantly you're going to be using two-handed equipment throughout this setup. Now, if you wanted to, you could purchase some mechanized Chinchompers for this and get yourself an offhand glaive for around 10 million and bomb through Shattered Worlds. Now, this is completely optional, but it will cost you a little bit more upfront, despite making it faster to get that ability. Now, let's talk about upgrade orders. So, for the first upgrade, it'll be relatively cheap at only 4 million for a pair of Fleeting Boots. Now, if you are predominantly taking on mobs to earn the money, then I would purchase a Mazcap Ability Codex first for 30 million. This is an incredible AoE ability which will boost your damage massively. If you are doing single target bossing, I would prioritize the Wyvern crossbow instead for the same amount at 30 million, and again reperk this with Precise 6 Eruptive 4. Once you have purchased the priority weapon or ability, go ahead and save up for the second priority again for 30 million. Now these two will cost you a cumulative of 60 million. After this, you're going to want to repurchase the Serenic body and legs for 5.5 million or so, and you'll want to perk it out with Crackling 4 Relentless 3, Biting 2, Impatient 4, and Enhanced Devoted 4. This will cost you around 20 million on top of the 5.5. After this, I would save up yet another 30 million to replace your pocket slot item for a choice of two different scriptures, either Jazz or When. I would prioritize Jazz for single target bossing or When for mobs. It's worth noting that the When book has a cheaper upkeep for the special passives than the Jazz book, but both books boast the same stats. Now it's time to prioritize again based on the content that you're doing. If you're doing mostly poisonable content, I would say for the Cinderbane gauntlets, which cost approximately 70 million. If not, I would save up for the Amulet of Souls, which will instead set you back 60 million. If you're not doing poisonable content, after purchasing the amulet, grab yourself Enhanced Nightmare Gauntlets for 30 million instead. Now after this, the next upgrade is a little bit steeper, so you're going to want to save up 300 million and purchase the Noxious Longbow. Again, remember to reperk it with the aforementioned perks. Now at this stage, you should ideally be looking to start aiming at getting yourself a Zuck ranged cape, so you'll need to get yourself a Tokhar Kal Zil. After this, you're going to want to save up around 800 million and purchase the Greater Ricochet Ability Codex for 740 million, and then immediately invest in the Coroming perk for 50 million. This combination is absolutely broken. Now at this point, you may want to invest a little time in obtaining the Black Crystal with the reduced healing effect from Morvran's challenge. If you invest into a poison build setup with a Reaver, you'll be dealing some amazing damage to single target poisonable bosses. In fact, Rayo RS does an amazing guide on the poison build with Kerapak. As he used an example in this, I'll include a link in the description. After this, I would save up for the Eldritch Crossbow for 740 million, and I would ensure that you've leveled up your Noxious Longbow to level 9 and then disassemble it. There is a good chance that you'll get the Coroming perk back from this, and you'll be wanting to save the 20 Noxious components for later on. If you weren't lucky enough to get yourself the Coroming perk, then fork out the 50 million required to pop that back on with Precise 6 onto your Eldritch Crossbow. After this, I would then invest in the Limitless Ability Codex for a further 820 million, which will grant you access to abilities significantly faster without needing to meet the adrenaline thresholds. After this, you'll be in a position where you can start to capitalize on all the extra damage and aim for getting yourself an Igneous Kal Zil. Shortly after this, you'll want to save up 40 million for the Pernix Quiver, which will allow you to change ammunition that you use, as well as some other fantastic passives. Next up on the upgrade block, it's time to upgrade your Amulet of Souls for an Essence of Finality and place a Dark Bow into it for a 260 million. Now your next weapon will be somewhat expensive. You'll want to save up 1.3 billion for the Seren God Bow. Now you don't want to be going off and selling off your ECB, as you'll have to put that into another Essence of Finality for its special ability, which is absolutely broken. Remember to perk out your Seren God Bow with Coroming 4 and Precise 6 for that 50 million. After this, I would then look to spend 210 million into replacing your Asylum Surgeon's Ring for the Stalker's Ring with the Enchantment of Shadows upgrade. Now at this stage, if you haven't already, I would highly advise moving into the poison-based content, as this setup will be absolutely fantastic for that. After all these upgrades, I would then look to upgrade your pocket slot book to Erethdor's Grimoire for 220 million. Now it's time to save up for arguably one of the best weapons in the game. You'll want to be spending just shy of 3 billion for the Bow of the Last Guardian. Now, you can sell your Seren God Bow and trade in for this. However, I would highly recommend just storing up for the 3 billion for the weapon and then spend a further 260 million on a second Essence of Finality as a switch and place your Seren God Bow into that. Now, if you don't plan on doing any switches, then by all means, sell the bow. Now, if you are interested in doing as many switches as possible for optimal DPS, then by all means, buy yourself another Essence of Finality, which will take you up to 3 EOFs. This will cost another 260 million, of course, and pop a dark bow into this for whilst you're under the Bow of the Last Guardian special. Now, your next upgrade would be to replace the Serenic armor for its elite Dracolich counterpart, which will set you back approximately 1.2 billion. This will give your bow additional firepower and supplement your critical strike rate with Erethdor's Grimoire. Now, the next upgrade is going to be why you actually disassembled your Noxious Longbow, and that is because you're going to be reperking your Forever armor and replacing Biting 2 for Biting 4. And this is the components that you'll be using from the Noxious Longbow. Now, at this stage in the game, every upgrade hereafter will grant you very small bonuses for an extremely high cost. You'll be upgrading your Death Swiftness with greater Death Swiftness, and this will cost you 240 million, but will grant you a bonus of an additional 11 ticks under Death Swiftness. After this, purchase a Praisal Codex for 800 million and use it to unlock the Desolation Prayer. Your final upgrade is actually a freebie, and it's then to upgrade your YouTube algorithm by hitting the subscribe button. After this, you're going to want to follow me across my socials, but in all seriousness, I do ask that if you like my video, don't forget to tell YouTube you liked my video by actually liking the video. But that's all for now, so until the next upload, happy scaping.